Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. We've got another tech review today, so we'll be talking about the Keychron K3 low-profile mechanical keyboard. I've had the keyboard since about March, and I'm really excited to kind of share this with y'all. I've really enjoyed using the keyboard so far, and let's get into the details. So the K3 is the first low-profile mechanical keyboard that Keychron made that has hot swappable low-profile optical switches. Essentially what that means, if you're not into keyboards, kind of like how I wasn't until I got this keyboard, it just means that you can change out the switches underneath the keys without having to solder your keyboard, which makes it really nice to kind of switch out if a switch should break. You don't have to buy a new keyboard, you just have to buy a new set of switches, which is really nice. This is something that I've already run into once. I had to kind of swap out one of the switches because I noticed that it wasn't working anymore, and I was able to swap that out really easily because the keyboard that I have is hot swappable. So overall, this keyboard is Bluetooth and wired. The Bluetooth is really nice because you can connect it to up to 3 devices, so it works really well for my desk setup because I have a Windows PC as well as a Mac Mini connected to a couple of my monitors, and that just means that I can kind of switch back and forth without having to worry about wires or getting a secondary keyboard. This keyboard kind of does it all for me, which has been really nice, especially as I jump back and forth between Mac and Windows. It is compatible with both, and when you buy the keyboard you do get kind of the keycaps that will swap between both Mac and Windows, and so if you are predominantly a Mac user you can just leave those keycaps on. If you're a Windows user you get options for that as well, to swap out the Control, the Windows key, and the Alt key, which is really nice. It's also great that you can use it wired or wireless, and so if you're somebody that prefers the more stable connection of a wired keyboard, you do have that option. Like if the keyboard dies and you don't want to use it while it's charging, you can swap it over to cable mode, which means that you don't have to worry about like a Bluetooth connection. So especially for gamers who need more of a reliable connection, this is have an option to be a wired keyboard. The Bluetooth connectivity is 5.0, which is really nice, and I haven't had any connectivity issues, but you will want to make sure that your computer is compatible with the Bluetooth 5.0. I know that some people have had connectivity issues because it doesn't work with older forms of Bluetooth, and so just make sure that your computer would be compatible, or the device that you're using it with would be compatible with the Bluetooth that is in the keyboard. I will let you know that this is the first version of the K3. I know since this video has been released and since I got this keyboard, Keychron has released a version 2, which does offer some more upgrades that I think would be helpful, and like quality of life type upgrades. So that is something to be aware of and look out for if you're interested in getting this keyboard. So the model that we're looking at today does have the low-profile optical switches that Keychron made for their keyboards. It is hot swappable, like I said earlier, and we have the brown switches and a mix of a couple black switches on the keyboard. So I did just want to give y'all a quick sound test as well. And so this is what the brown switches sound like just on the keypad. And then these keys are the black keys, so brown keys and then black keys. I picked the brown switches because I felt like it gave me a good balance of like the loud, kind of sometimes annoying if you work in an office, like sound of mechanical keyboards, while still giving me the level of comfort that I got from typing on more like laptop style keyboards. Before I switched over to this keyboard, I was using one of the Logitech MX Keys keyboards, and I did really like that, but I was looking for something a little clickier when I was moving over to the next keyboard that I was looking at, and so this is kind of what I decided to go with. It does have a combination of brown switches and black switches. I found that occasionally the brown switches on the larger keys was really sensitive, and so I'd accidentally hit either the backspace or enter key when I wasn't meaning to, which led to like some accidentally sent messages or like unfinished messages on Slack and Discord before I swapped out to the black switches. But since I've done that, I haven't had any issues at all with accidental key presses, which has been really nice. So this keyboard is a 75% layout. What that essentially means is that it doesn't have the number pad that you might be used to seeing on larger keypads. It also condenses the keyboard a little bit, so I don't have some of the other keys that you might see on 100% or 85% layouts. I was really interested in this form factor of keyboard because even though I have a fairly large desk, it was a little bit annoying to have the Logitech MX keys take up so much desk space, and so I wanted something that was quite a bit smaller in form factor so that I would have more room for mice or a notebook on my desk because I still like handwriting things. I wanted to have more option to use my desk space, and this has really fit well onto the desk surface that I have. The keyboard does have all of the function keys, so that's part of the 75% layout. So I do have access to media controls, changing the backlight, brightness level, other function keys as well without having to have do multiple button presses to get to the function keys, which is really nice. So I didn't lose out on that. Mostly I just don't have the number pad, which I wasn't finding myself use very frequently anyway, so I haven't missed that. In the event that I find that I do need a number pad, I'll either put together one on my Stream Deck that I have on my desk, or I'll pull over the MX keys so that I can use the number pad that's attached to that keyboard. So in all honesty, I was really interested in this keyboard because it does come in at under $100 US. I was looking at some other 10 keyless keyboards when I was kind of shifting into realizing that I wanted a smaller form factor in keyboards, but a lot of them were really expensive and that wasn't necessarily something that I was interested in. So particularly I was looking at that Logitech G915 10 keyless, which I think is a really nice looking keyboard. I kind of, before COVID, had the chance to type on it a little bit at a Best Buy or a Micro Center, and I like the feel of the keys. That keyboard cost $230 US, and I just, at the time, was unemployed and broke, and so couldn't justify spending almost $250 on a keyboard. And so I was looking into options and saw that the Keychron K3 on Kickstarter was only going to be around $75 US dollars, and so I was like, why not give it a shot? I'd heard really good things about Keychron keyboards in the past, and so I put in, I backed on Kickstarter, and it got here in March earlier this year, and I've been using it since then and I've been really happy. The other thing is that this keyboard does have 15 RGB settings, so it is an RGB backlight. I typically keep it on the last RGB setting, which means it individually lights up the keys as I type on it. I think that that's worked really well for me. I don't like a lot of the really flashy RGB lights. I probably also would have been just as happy with just a normal backlit with just white lighting. But I do like having the option to use some of the other RGB settings if that's something that I'd be interested in the future. And I did want to bring up that the K3 does have a version 2 that they are currently selling on the Keychron website, and so something that I noticed with this particular keyboard is that there is no option to adjust the tilt level of the keyboard. It's just not something that they put in with the first version, and so they've actually updated that for version 2. I think that that'll be really nice for folk who grab the second version of the keyboard, because that's definitely something that I wish I could adjust on this keyboard so that'll be a little bit more comfortable for me to type on. They also made some other changes. I'm going to link the blog that they did on that below, but I think that the quality of life changes that they made to version 2 even more so make this keyboard more interesting and probably will last a little bit longer than the model that I have. I do want to say that it did raise the price for the RGB backlight version to $84, so just something to look out for in case you are interested in grabbing this keyboard. So I've mentioned this a little bit, but there are a couple cons that I found with this keyboard, and predominantly it's been kind of to do with the switches that they use. So I really like the switches overall. I think that they work well, but like I was mentioning earlier, when I first got this keyboard, it was really sensitive, and so I'd find that I was hitting keys on accident. I was getting double typed keys because the keyboard was just picking up anytime I breathed on the keyboard. It thought I was pressing the key. And so kind of what I did with that, when I ordered the keyboard, I had also gotten a set of black switches and white switches. I was leaning towards the black switches a little bit more, and so I replaced the shift key, the enter key, and the backspace key with black switches instead of brown switches, and so I've really limited like the amount of accidental button presses. I've also gotten a little bit more used to what it's like typing on a mechanical keyboard, and so that has helped as well. The other thing with that is that the RGB light is also really easy to press, and so there have been a couple times since I've had this keyboard where I've like accidentally touched the button for the lighting, and I'll have to like cycle through the entire 15 RGB lights because naturally I chose the light setting that's like the last one on the keyboard, and so I have to cycle all the way back through to get to the one that I want. So that's just kind of been annoying, and so I wish that that button, like there was a way to lock the RGB settings on the keyboard. There isn't one that I know of, and so it would be really nice to see that come out in future Keychron keyboards, to be like, nope, I want to be able to lock the RGB setting that I have on the keyboard. So yeah, overall, I really do love this keyboard. It was definitely an adjustment swapping over from the Logitech MX keys, which was a keyboard that I also really love, and I'm planning on like continuing to use off and on in the future when I need some of the functionality that the MX keys offers. But overall, I've been really happy with this purchase. I love that it comes in at under $100 and can connect to both Windows, PC, and Linux. Which means that you have a lot of options to use this keyboard with. It'll also connect to mobile devices, and so before I got a keyboard for my iPad, I would often also connect this to my iPad so that I could type on it. When my internet has gone out at home, I can connect it to my phone. So I have a Samsung phone that I can connect to my monitor, which means that I can use that kind of as a backup computer with the Samsung DeX functionality. And so it's been really nice having a lot of options to use this keyboard on, and so I definitely recommend picking it up. I am interested though, do y'all use mechanical keyboards? If so, what brand should I be on the lookout for when when I start looking for a new keyboard? Are there things that I should stay away from, things that I should be looking out for? Would love to hear what y'all think. As always, links to what we talked about today will be below in the description, and I did want to remind y'all that if your keyboard is working well and you're happy with it, don't go out and buy a new keyboard. Like, I do love my K3, but if you have a keyboard that's working and that you like, don't feel like you need to fall into gear envy and go pick this up. Admittedly, I do this a lot. That's how I ended up with this Xbox controller that you can see behind me. I would definitely recommend the Keychron brand. I think it works really well. I'm personally looking at the K7 that they recently released. It's a 60% layout, which means that they got rid of the function keys and combined that with the number keys at the top of the keyboard. It's something that I'm definitely really interested in, but again, like, if you like the keyboard that you're using, please don't like fall into gear envy and go grab a new keyboard. But yeah, thanks for watching today, y'all. I hope you liked the video, and I will see y'all in the next one. Have a good one, y'all.